Kia ora, I'm Anaise from AUT's Graduate Research School, and I'm joined today by Dr. Kwong Nui for a chat about career strategies for Masters and Doctoral Research students. Job hunting with an advanced research degree is quite different to job hunting with an undergraduate degree. The types of jobs you target will be at a higher level, and the job application process can vary a lot depending on the role.
First of all, with a master's and particularly with a doctorate, you might be considering an academic career. But from my experience as a postgraduate student as well as an academic, I have to say an academic career is not the only destination and it's not for everyone. And either an academic or a non-academic career, the preparation begins on the day one of a postgraduate study. For example, if you would like to embark onto academia, maybe publication has to start from the beginning of a postgraduate journey, even if an abstract submission to a conference, like our postgraduate symposium. But if you would like to look into non-academic role, have a look at any internship opportunities throughout the postgraduate journey. In short, my point is you shouldn't have an empty CV after finishing your postgraduate study.
Or you could be considering a non-academic career that makes use of your specific research skills. That was my path. I completed a Master's and PhD in English with a focus on science communication, and I've built a career helping others to develop their research skills. I did give serious thought to pursuing an academic career because I really love teaching, but ultimately I found that the academic job market in my field in New Zealand was very limited. And I have young kids, so I wasn't really prepared to make an international move. I did find a career that gave me the satisfaction of helping others to learn, while also allowing balance with the other parts of my life. So for me, a non-academic career was the right fit.
So a lot of your career strategy, I believe, will depend on this core question. Do you want an academic or a non-academic career? If you have a clear answer, your job hunt will be much easier.
But if not, that's okay too. You might just have to strategize to keep your options open. But let's talk a little bit about how you can prepare yourself during your master's or your doctoral program for the career that comes afterward. So, looking at academic career options first, Kwong Nui, what kinds of roles are there out there in academia for students emerging fresh from a master's or a doctorate?
I would suggest any role in the university or higher education institution to start with, because not everyone will get a full-time permanent academic role from the start. So if you are given an opportunity to be a tutor, a teaching fellow, a research fellow, or even working in the space that are student related, for example, working as a facilitator in a student learning center or coordinator in a library, and that will all build out your academic CV.
Kwong Nui, what do you think students should know about academic careers? What is the reality of having that academic position?
In general, for those who would like to embark onto academia, they need to know that they need to have teaching, research, and maybe service portfolios. And it would be good if they start preparing these portfolios when they are doing their postgraduate studies. I would say grab the opportunities. For example, teaching, be a tutor if there is a chance. For research, like I said earlier, publish an article or even a presentation at a conference. For the service, for example, being a volunteer at a postgraduate symposium. And that will all be counted into all the portfolio being an academy or embark onto academia. But in reality, all these portfolios happen every day or within a day. So maybe in the morning I will have a research meeting, and then I will lead into a teaching session, and maybe in the afternoon I will have to do some service work such as convening a doctoral exam. So in reality, I have to say being an academic is a lifestyle. It's not going to be a 9-to-5 job, unfortunately. A lot of times you need to work outside 9 to 5 in order to collaborate with colleagues at different time zones, or actually doing work that you couldn't finish doing within 9 to 5, such as writing a research grant or writing an article.
So, having pursued an academic career yourself, what would you recommend that students do during their studies to lay the groundwork for a future academic role?
The rule of thumb will be strengthening your publication, teaching, and voluntary service portfolios, plus networking opportunities. So if you have a chance to meet with other postgraduates or other academics in the similar field, grab those chances, and that will help you to establish your position in the academia in a smoother and more proficient manner.
So let's talk about that application process. When it comes time to apply for academic roles, what should students expect?
You will have to expect it will be really hard to get one because it is so competitive and the positions are limited. So similar as other roles, the fit, such as the personalities, specifically, most of the institutions are looking at how one can contribute to the team in terms of the research and their teaching experiences. The service and the leadership profiles can be built over time, even when you are in the role. But overall, the communication skills is quite essential, both oral and written, because that reflects one's thinking skills. Normally, the applicants will have to have a PhD qualification or a clear indication that they are going to complete the PhD in no time. During the application, one has to prepare a cover letter to express their interest and why, an updated CV to indicate their experiences in teaching and research publications. But most importantly, there is always one more document that an applicant has to prepare, that is to address the key criteria of the position, how they are going to contribute to the team and the institution. Once the applicant is shortlisted, they will be invited to attend an interview and talk to a panel, normally of 3 or 4. And then if it is a very competitive role, there will be a second interview for the very, very shortlisted. But in the second interview, most of the time, the applicant has to present a topic that is being provided in order to see the thinking as well as the communication skills. And lastly, some institutions, especially the traditional higher education institutions, they would like the last 2 shortlisted candidates to come to the team and join them for a morning or afternoon tea to see the fit. So those are the procedures in the normal circumstance, but some universities can be having a shorter process, but mostly are quite similar.
Okay, so those are great tips for people aiming for an academic career.
But I'm also curious, what about those who are looking for other roles? Anaise, you took a non-academic pathway. So what can you share about the types of non-academic roles that master's and doctoral students could aim for?
Well, there's a huge variety. It might help to break this down a little bit. So let's look at non-academic roles in, first of all, education and in industry, and thirdly, in not-for-profit sectors. So firstly, many people with advanced research degrees stay in education even if they aren't in academic roles. I'm an example of how that can work. Most universities have a research office, a teaching and learning office, libraries, and many strategic and managerial positions, all of which need non-academic staff who do have research experience. I have master's or doctorally qualified colleagues who work as postgraduate faculty managers, learning advisors, publication experts, specialist librarians, research strategists, and so on. And many other parts of the education sector also hire those with research degrees. So you can look at roles in tertiary institutes, in research institutes, politics, language schools, secondary schools, primary schools, and even early childhood. Of course, there's private tutoring as well. And many people opt to build careers as education policymakers or consultants. If you're looking at roles in industry, there's arguably even more variety. So your background might shape your options here and lead you into a role in medicine or in engineering or law or business, whatever it is that you have studied. But even if you don't have a specific industry background, the skills acquired through a master's or doctoral degree can often translate into roles in research and development, project management, consultancy, communication, or data analytics, just to name a few. It's also quite common for those with research experience to pursue an entrepreneurial path and to create their own company. If you're interested in not-for-profit sectors, government and policy positions can be particularly suitable. Many government ministries and local councils will seek candidates with research experience to enact or to guide policies. I've also had colleagues out of my PhD program who've run for political office successfully as well. And there are many charities that require research experience to deliver their services.
There's a lot of options, definitely more than being an academic. How would you recommend, though, students navigate all those options and prepare for a future non-academic role?
It is a lot of options, and I think the first step is to know, broadly at least, what kind of area you want to target. If you already know that, then great. If not, you just need to shop around. So talk to people whose careers you admire, maybe try an internship if those are available. If they're not available, and to be honest, they're not that common in New Zealand, see if you can get a temp role or a part-time role in an area that interests you. Try to narrow down that field of options until you know, at least broadly, where to aim. Once you know that, you can lay the foundations for your future career. For roles at intermediate or senior levels, so these are the types of roles you might target with a master's or a doctoral degree, bear in mind that organisations often hire internally or hire candidates from within the sector. It can be hard to break into that first position if you're not already known. But if you can get your foot in the door and become known as a reliable and capable employee, you will typically have options to move from there. You may not get your dream job right away, but once you're in, you can take secondments, moving between roles temporarily, or apply for permanent internal roles with far fewer hurdles than if you were to come in cold. I took my first steps into my current career by signing up with a temp agency and specifying that I was interested in higher education roles. I worked in quite a few short-term placements in research support, none of which was quite right for me, but I made loads of contacts, I got some great references, and then during my PhD studies I took part in AUT's Graduate Research School on a project. That turned out to be a great fit, and once I had my PhD I'd already secured a permanent full-time role. So I guess my advice would be to get some work experience while you're studying, even if it's not quite the perfect thing. But just build a reputation, get some contacts, make sure that by the time you graduate you're already warmed up for your chosen career. And you've got to make sure that anyone Googling your name finds good things. So minimise anything in your social media that you wouldn't want employers to see. And also on the flip side of that, make sure you establish a presence that shows your capability. So that could be a LinkedIn page, it could be YouTube videos of you communicating your research, it could be a blog, it could be a personal website that you use for professional purposes. You could seek to get publications in academic journals or in the general media. Your online presence should reflect your expertise and I think reflect your ambition as well.
So let's say you have completed your studies and you are ready to launch fully into your career. What can applicants do to have the best chance of success in non-academic roles?
Well, first of all, I think not all non-academic careers can be achieved through traditional job hunting with job ads and CVs and cover letters. If you're already known and established in some kind of part-time or temporary position, you may be negotiating with existing employers to evolve your current position or to move within your organisation. Same way, if you've established strong networks, you might be having conversations with potential employers about how you could contribute to their organisations, whether or not they're actually advertising vacancies. You may also be carving your own path through entrepreneurial or freelancing initiatives. But if you are responding to job advertisements, bear in mind that as a master's or a doctorally qualified candidate, employers do have high expectations of your capability. You will typically be looking at more senior roles and a higher salary level than less qualified candidates. And so accordingly, employers will want to see a really polished CV and cover letter that are clearly well targeted to the role. I don't think you can copy paste your application materials for different roles at this level. Your background needs to be well matched to the position, and you'll need to articulate your suitability for the role in a way that addresses any selection criteria that were in the advertisement. So my advice would be to be really specific, to read the job ad very closely and respond to it on its own terms, and of course have someone proofread the application for you.
What about interviewing? Any tips there?
I do think there are definitely differences between interviews for roles that require a bachelor's and interviews for roles that require a master's or a doctoral degree. If an employer is seeking someone with research experience, then they typically want someone who can work independently, think critically, solve problems, someone who can reflect on their own practice as well and communicate well with others. So in other words, they're looking for someone who can do a lot more than just follow instructions. So I do think you need to demonstrate those abilities in the interview. If you aren't already familiar with the organisation or the wider sector, do plenty of research in advance. Find out as much as you can about how they operate and any values or philosophies underpinning their work. Make sure you answer the interviewer's questions fully, drawing on examples from your own work or educational history to illustrate your answers. And I would suggest always ask questions back. Show your interest in the role, show your curiosity. Ask how the organisation does things. Demonstrate that you're already preparing to contribute intellectually to their operations. But you have to do so with humility. I mean, you're an expert in your research area, yes, but not in their organisation. So it's a fine balance to demonstrate your knowledge and ability, but also show that you're ready to learn as you fit into a new organisation.
So there's a lot of information about career strategy for master's and doctoral students. What do you think are the key takeaways, Anaise?
I think for me, regardless of whether you're targeting academic or non-academic careers, I think everyone needs to be preparing for their career long before they graduate. They need to be positioning themselves so that once they're ready to go out into the workplace, they already have networks and connections, they basically already have prospects lined up. I think my main tip would be to establish a good reputation while you're studying so that you already have employers wanting to hire you as soon as you're ready. What about you, Kwong Nui? What's your top tip?
Similarly, for me, prepare oneself well. It's always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. Secondly, present yourself well. The first impression is necessary and significant. And lastly, pitch yourself well, being enthusiastic about a win-win scenario, for example, your self-progress, career, esteem, versus what can you bring to the team.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and best of luck in your career paths wherever they may take you.